the Board of Adjustment, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, I need a motion to approve the agenda for today.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Moved by Rachel, seconded by Bob. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And then have you had a chance to go through the minutes?
Yes, I did, and they were fine with me.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All right. Got that, Ann?
Do we have to vote,
Oh,
technically?
Yes.
yes. I just have trouble with
That's all right.
All right. All in favor of approving the minutes from our last meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. We have a petition today, docket BOA 10-17-1901, to consider the petition of Leon Keaton in regards to the following: a variance to allow a subsurface sewage treatment system 0 feet from the property line instead of the required 10 feet, and a septic tank 5 feet from a garage instead of the required 10 feet, pursuant to Chapter 13.6 of the Winona County zoning ordinance. Lou, do you have something for us?
Yeah, we got a really short, I guess, presentation. You could call it a presentation, but a little bit of information for you. So the location, it's your mapping exhibit is in your packet. We're located out at the intersection of County Road 7 and Highway 61 on Lamoille Drive. It's a little loop road in between 61 and County Road 7. The site is a small lot, as you can see from the mapping exhibit. Well is located on the north side of the property. Existing septic system to the south was found to be out of compliance as part of a point of sale inspection, and they were given 2 years to replace the system. That 2 years is up this year, so they've been working towards this for a while. They needed, because of the small size of the lot and the location of the well and the type of well, they needed a variance from the well setback. And MDH has granted them up to 88 feet. That's the maximum that they would allow. So that leaves the area to the south in yellow on the mapping exhibit to be used for a replacement septic system. It's constricted by obviously lot size. You have road right-of-way over here, which is 33 feet, it's a standard right-of-way, 33 feet from center line of the road, which comes into a part of their yard area, their grassy area that could be used. We don't have the ability to grant permission to use that area. So we're only looking at the area on the property that is at the disposal of the property owner, which is in yellow. In order to accommodate that, their contractor, Terry Siebeneller from H&M Plumbing and Heating, has submitted a site plan for is this an at-grade, Terry? It's a mound system, so they're going to be bringing in some sand to create the separation that they need from the bottom of the system in order to ensure treatment. The mound needs berms, lateral support on the sides, and to provide room for the wastewater to infiltrate into the soil. So the green area on the site plan here, if you look back here, this green area is the absorption area. And that's also the area that is measured for setbacks. So that absorption area from the design needs to be at least 10 feet from property line. That includes the right-of-way. In this case, in order to meet the size that's required for the system for the home and design the system, they need up to a 0-foot setback. There's, these are the setbacks here that Terry provided from property line. And maybe he can explain that a little bit more during the public hearing portion of the meeting here. But as you can see, there are a couple of locations that were up to 0. We wanted to go all the way up to the property line with that. The absorption area does need to be covered with a couple feet of fill. That creates more lateral support that's needed. Terry says that he's going to fur that out and try to make that fit on the property so that it does not cross the property line onto the neighbor's property. We did receive a phone call from the neighbor who didn't have any objections to them, building the septic system, but did not want it also to extend onto his property. He was concerned about that. I'll take that for what it's worth. We also received comments from Minnesota Department of Transportation with no concerns on their end. Those just came in today. So those were the only two comments that we received, generally in favor of the petition. I do have a short video that we can play now and give an overview of the site. This is looking to the south, I believe, on Lamoille Drive. You can see the address. The stake there delineates the right-of-way. There's a playground towards the back here, which is right up against the property line in the back. So you can kind of see where that property line goes. I'll pan around so you can kind of get a 360 view. See the lay of the land here. But you'll see a bunch of stakes in the yard. That's where the drain field would go, kind of in this area. Right there, as you can see. And I think Terry can fill in some of the technical details of how he plans on designing and building the system. Beyond that. So, the gist of it is a very small lot in an old platted area. Septic system needs to be replaced. And this is probably their best chance at a long-term treatment on site for wastewater treatment. So I think our findings support the petition. So if you have any questions as you're going through those or in general, feel free to let me know at any time.
Okay. Do either of you have questions for Lou?
Is what road is this? Does this go to Pickwick or is it a different?
This is Lamoille Drive that it's actually on. It's a little township road that's in between Highway 61 and County Road 7.
Okay.
So County Road 7 goes up to Pickwick. It's right at.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's where the right-of-way, hits the right, that comes up against that right-of-way.
Right.
MnDOT,
The MnDOT
right, okay.
right-of-way comes up, pretty close.
Okay.
So Lou, on the property lines where it is, the absorption areas, right up to the property lines, will those neighboring lots be developed at some point?
All of that property, there's only, let's see.
It wasn't clear to me if those were too steep or wooded, or if that someday there'll be houses there,
So to the, this would be the east.
right?
And to the south, this is all one property owner. So those aren't platted. And I don't know that there's any plans for them to be split. They'd need hearings and public review probably if they were to had any intention to split those and develop them. To my knowledge, they're not planned to be developed. I think there is drainage way and some other natural features in here as well that might make development of some of those areas difficult.
Yeah, I was,
Across the street is pretty steep slopes too, which is probably not developable. I don't really see too many I mean, maybe there, at some point, somebody might try to sneak another home in this area, but for the most part, I don't think there's too many homes that are gonna be going into this area. And none that we're aware of at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Just one question. Which way does it actually slope? To the right? Is that down?
Over here,
Yeah.
this all kind of comes to the back and then down into a drainage way, and it gets kind of, it's a low area that's wet back behind here.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
kind of some wetlands,
All right.
and everything kind of flows back and down into there.
Okay.
And then this here, on this side, this all goes up,
That starts up the bluff?
gets up the bluff, yep,
Okay.
pretty quick.
Yep. All right. That's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you, Lou.
You bet.
At this time, would the petitioner or his representative, Mr. Stiebenaler, want to speak?
Sure. So in this diagram that we have here, if we can flip back to the diagram that I had generated preliminary, this one right here. So the preliminary drawing that I had proposed here indicated a septic tank here against the eastern property line. And again, this was preliminary. We didn't have any surveys done. We were trying to find the best way to fit what would be a conventional system mound in what's left of the property based on the setback off of the well. Since this drawing has been done, the state has given us the authority to go at least 88 feet from that point of the soil absorption area to the well, which actually pulls it in a little bit. And at the same tune of the fork, they actually had this lot surveyed now. So we have survey pins in this location and in this location, which Lou had in his pictures. So we went back out, and those stakes that Lou had in his pictures are actually what set us in the location where we're at. Was we have to be on a level contour line based off the slope. And that's where the lath that you see, those white stakes that are relatively tall, that's basically this portion right in here. So that kind of gave us the rotation to fit it in the lot. And so when this was drawn, again, this would be what would be required on if there were no property line setbacks. That's where the corner of black dirt meets black dirt. Black dirt meets black dirt. Okay, so with this rotated, we're gonna go with a type 3 system because the state has issued some recommendations or some requirements to maintain this 88 feet. One of them is I have to take the whole drain field system that's currently in there and remove it off-site.
Right.
So I'm digging a deep hole. So they want that filled with mound sand. So now I've disturbed the original soil again, and so now I'm gonna use a type 3, which just allows me to do a little more with it. So after restaking this out, this line actually ends up on the line, and with a rotation and some reduction in here, I'm actually black dirt. My plan is the black dirt will not exceed the property lines. So what you see, like in this corner here, would no longer exist. This one here would no longer exist, and neither would that one. I will make it fit on the site, but at the same tune of the fork, the setback is off of the absorption to that. But the concern also is dirt meeting dirt. In other words, I'm on somebody else's property. So I'm going to, with zero setback, that corner of the dirt will be right there. So there should be no questions in regards to future. If this drain field is on the neighbor's property, it will all stay within the staked 4 corners or 2 corners here. Actually, this one here I think is staked also. Stay within the parameters of that lot.
Okay.
That's my recommendations for this. And meanwhile, this septic tank, because we're doing the 5 foot, is actually getting rolled over here. Because with this 88 feet,
Right.
the tank isn't as much of an issue. It pulled and rotated this a little bit. So I have room up here as long as I can crowd it closer to the garage. And this is a walkout basement. So the elevation from this part of the driveway to this side of the back of the house is probably approximately 8 feet.
Oh, okay.
It drops. And this is all about the same height. So there is a pretty steep slope on this.
Right. And then just, I believe the Department of Health has issued a variance, and that's the 88 feet.
Yep.
Right.
For that well. Otherwise, I'd be required to hold 100 to that point.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Stiebenaler?
I don't.
Thank you.
Can you get a copy of that, please? That determination from the Department of Health, can you get a copy of it?
It's already in the file.
He's got it, okay.
So do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Rachel and seconded by Bob to open the public hearing. If anyone would like to speak to this petition for or against, please step to the podium and state your name and address. Oh, and I forgot to have Mr. Siebenoller state his name and address. Okay, sorry. For this,
My name is Terry Siebenoller. I'm with H&M Plumbing and Heating. My business residence is 110 Main Street, Rolling Stone. My personal address is 19277 Hickory Drive, Altura, Minnesota.
thank you very much. Sorry that was so belated. For the second time, is there anyone who would want to speak for or against this petition?
Hi, I'm the property owner, Dan Douglas. That's the property there that they're looking at. My only concern is just the runoff. You know, and being so close to the property line with a zero setback is like right there. You know, that's one of my concerns. I do keep the yard mowed and everything back there. I'm worried about the septic, you know, if it ever overflows, runs down in the yard, you know, what's gonna happen there. And the down below area too, I'm worried about that, you know, the runoff down there. We do have trails. I use the land down there. My kids run trails in their four-wheelers down there. So it's just a few things that I would, you know, like questions for with, if it did happen to fail, what would, you know, what happens, where does it go? Because it all does naturally run downhill. And the property, like I said, the property line is right there.
Yep.
Other than that, I have no objection to it. I'm just worried about the being so close to the property line.
Right. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Lewis. Just for my own information, I mean, do septics overflow and run?
They can't.
It happens. Yeah, when they fail, they can come out the side and surface, and yeah, that can happen. With the newer systems, I mean, we don't see many that are in the past 20 years that have been installed that are like that. You know, they tend to last 20, 30, 40 years or more. Some do fail though, and when they fail, they certainly can come to the surface and run over the top. When that happens, that's an imminent threat to public health, and they're required to fix it within, you know, once we become aware of it, it's 10 months to, you know, get a contractor, get a septic permit, a plan for fixing it. We usually abate it sooner than that though, so that it's not surfacing. So yeah, I think the bigger concern, that's the concern with any septic system though, and the potential for it to fail eventually. Eventually they will fail and potentially come to the surface. But as far as construction goes, I think in this case, the best that we can do is construct it properly, hopefully construct it in a time where we don't get rain and a storm during construction while it's open. Weather has a lot to play with that, and then do best practices to try to keep soil on site. And get it seeded and matted right away. And I think Terry usually does a pretty good job on site, so completely erosion control mats is what I usually see him do. So it's usually staked out with erosion control mats and seeded, so that, I mean, as soon as possible, there's vegetation on the site. Those are our best practices, and that's what we can do to try to mitigate that.
How is the effluent from, I mean, that's in the actual drain field from the septic tank classified? I mean,
Was it
what is
classified?
What is it? Theoretically, it should be harmless, right?
That's in the septic tank?
What's after the septic tank?
What
After it's
comes out
treated
of
and
the
what
drain
comes
field
out? Yeah,
After treatment?
yeah. I mean, what,
Yeah,
say
it's-
something would ooze out of the mound.
Yeah, I don't have any data like available to me right now, but essentially, yes, it's supposed to be safe to be released into the environment.
Right, yeah.
You know, there's always going to be some nutrients left in that wastewater. I wouldn't drink it, but yeah, it's relatively safe to be released in the environment.
Okay.
It still needs to stay in the ground.
Right,
It
yeah.
can't come to the surface. So when that happens, we do call that a threat to public health, so.
Is the system designed now that it essentially is all supposed to evaporate? Or can it leach into the ground?
It's designed to leach into the ground, come out the bottom of the system and
Okay.
into the soil.
Okay.
Yeah, and all that water, that treated wastewater, eventually makes it to groundwater sources.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh,
Just
go
one more
ahead.
question. So with a mound, the idea is to give it more area? I mean, that it can't be in the ground totally,
Well,
or more
based on the
evaporation?
science, we need 3 feet of good soil for treatment. So.
Oh, I see, so you may create it.
Yep, so that's where you need, for a mound, I don't know what are the soils here, Terry, was it 30 inches?
I believe it was somewhere in the 30 to 20.
So you need more essentially.
So essentially, if we don't have the 36 inches of separation in the natural soil, that's where a mound's needed. So anything less than between 36 and 24, whether it's 30, 28, or 32, needs a foot of sand. That's the minimum amount of sand for a mound.
Okay.
So you're always going to get 1 foot of sand in a mound system. And that's going to give you your at least 3 feet of separation from seasonally saturated soils or bedrock
Oh, I
or
see,
whatever
yeah.
that limiting layer is in the soil. And that's just based on the science and the tests that they've done at the University of Minnesota and other places to determine and test what the pathogens and viruses and everything else that's in sewage. At one point, does the bacteria take care of that and treat it to a point where you can release it?
Okay.
Bigger systems, I mean, that doesn't necessarily take care of like nitrogen, phosphorus, or those types of, and then some other, if there's antibiotics or any kind of, other kinds of things that might be in the wastewater, it doesn't necessarily take care of that. So large systems that are like community systems that are serving many homes has much larger flow. Those have higher standards that they need to meet, and they have to meet nitrogen standards and other requirements. And a lot of times those are permitted by MPCA. So
How much is added in this actual mound? How high is this mound, or how much is being added? Or-
12 inches, right, Terry?
12
Yeah.
inches of sand.
So, so it won't be a
Well,
high
12
mound.
inches of sand, 12 inches of rock, 18 inches of topsoil.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
So you're creating a whole, 3 feet. Okay, I get it, yeah.
In the case of this property,
Yeah, go ahead, come on up.
Terry Siebenauer speaking. In the case of this property, the way it's sloped off from that, where the garage is here, what we're basically doing is extending his yard. So from this area here, it's actually gonna get flatter. He's actually gonna gain a flat yard. So in that picture that we had earlier, where he was doing still pictures. Was it a video?
Yeah, it probably was in the video.
In that video where those stakes were actually from that garage, it's actually gonna be relatively flat.
Oh, okay.
And then it's gonna slope off.
Oh, then it'll be, okay.
Yes, so where that playground equipment was, that's gonna be sloping off there. So we're basically filling it, making it flatter on the top.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you, Lou.
yep,
And
that's all I have.
Mr. Luce, did this answer some of your questions at all, or, do you feel a little
Well,
more?
I'm curious as to what, like where the mountain comes over, what are you gonna do when it's 3 foot there, even 0 feet from the property line?
So the slopes, we're looking like a 4-to-1 slope. So from the property line will be a 4-to-1 slope to the top, is what it is. The mobility is what we're after. So it'll be, if you're familiar with that house now, where the garage is and there's those the heavy weeds in the one corner, it won't even be that steep, because I have to have the 4-to-1 to slope to mow it. So it's probably gonna be a little bit about the same slope as it is now from the garage down through his yard. It's just gonna be extended out, and it's gonna end at the end of the property line.
I guess my only concern with that would be, maybe instead of seeding it, maybe it's not it, because it's gonna wash.
The recommendation for a mound is seeding. You don't really want sod, because sod requires watering, and you're not supposed to water a mound. usually what we have when we use the straw silt mats with grass seed that we're using as a blend, within usually about a week to 2 weeks, it has a solid green hue to it, so we get relatively good grass establishment. And again, depending on the time of year, when we get it put in. As November creeps up, you wouldn't get grass cover, so we wouldn't even entertain installing one this late in the season. But if we can get one, no, it's too late in the season.
That's one of my concerns as well.
Oh, yeah, actually, if I needed that, I could have gotten the picture. Out of the mounds we put in so far this year, I believe they're all mowing. There's that much grass covered over the summer, but it's been pretty wet.
Yeah.
Is there concern about will you need to be, when you're building the mound system, will you need to be on his property to do that work, or that will all be contained within the property lines? You won't be
It's all contained.
tracking through his land at all?
It will all be on Mr. Keaton's property.
Okay.
If we can step there with our feet, we might just turn around and regrade, but for the most part, no, everything will be on. In normal installation of most septics, you're not allowed to really be on anybody's property other than when you're working.
Right.
So the philosophy behind installation is you are gonna work on the property that you're hired to do, and unless we get permission from the neighbors, because we have to use it to get equipment or material,
Right.
which we've had.
Sure.
Then we'll get permission, otherwise if there's permissions not granted, we have to come up with another way to get it. In this case, it can all be accessed.
All right. So for the third and final time, would anyone like to speak for or against this petition?
I move we close the public meeting.
Second?
Hearing.
Moved by Bob and seconded by Rachel to close the public meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The public meeting is closed. We're ready to go through, the criteria.
Yep.
The variance request is in harmony with the intent and purpose of the ordinance. Are we in agreement with that?
Yes.
Yes.
This would be on page 17.
I gotta.
The variance request is consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Yes.
Yep.
The applicant has established that there are practical difficulties in complying with the official control and proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner.
Yes.
Yes.
The variance request is due to special conditions or circumstances unique to the property, not created by owners of the property since enactment of the ordinance.
Right.
Yes, correct.
The variance will not alter the essential character of the locality, nor substantially impair property values or the public health, safety, or welfare in the vicinity.
Yes, it will not.
Economic considerations alone do not constitute practical difficulties.
Yeah, that hadn't been brought up.
Yep.
The variance cannot be alleviated by a reasonable method other than a variance and is the minimum variance which would alleviate the practical difficulty.
That is correct,
Yes, that
I
seems true.
believe.
The request is not a use variance and does not have the effect of allowing any use that is not allowed in the zoning district, permit a lower degree of flood protection than the regulatory flood protection elevation, or permit standards lower than those required by state law.
Correct.
Yep, not a use variance.
Yep.
Okay. So I'd like to read the conditions. The owners of the property to which this variance is issued will abide by all representations and commitments made during the permitting process, as well as before the Board of Adjustment, in accordance with all conditions to the variance. The petitioners obtain the required septic permit and comply with all relevant regulations and standards of Winona County and the state of Minnesota. So do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So the variance and its conditions are approved by the Board of Adjustment.
Just to verify, that also included adopting the findings as presented?
I'm sorry,
That included adopting the findings as presented?
it does, and the conditions. So I would like, all decisions by the Board of Adjustment in granting variances or in hearing appeals from any administrative order, requirement, decision, or determination shall be final, except that any aggrieved person or persons or any department, board, or commission of the jurisdiction or of the state shall have the right to appeal within 30 days after receipt of notice of the decision to the district court in the county in which the land is located on questions of law and fact. Any party that would like to submit an appeal to the decision rendered at the public hearing must do so to the district court. Planning and Environmental Services is not responsible for filing the appeal or obtaining representation by counsel for the petitioner.
And I should have made the comment earlier, but I think it was covered, but also if there is any, to adjust or address the concerns of the neighbor, that if there is any, surface leakage, that it be attended to post haste or immediately. Yes.
We take any that's pretty seriously, so as soon
Yeah.
as we hear about it, we act on it.
Yeah, so that if the neighbor something, then it's, yeah.
Ultimately, it's up to the property owner to do that, though.
Yeah.
So, yep, they're responsible for getting it taken care of, mowing the bumper.
What are the consequences if someone doesn't?
Well, we would get the county attorney's office involved and legal action could be taken. We could also abate that. We have in the past called pumpers to come and pump out the tank when needed to draw that down so it's not actively surfacing, and then we can bill the property owner.
Right, okay,
So that's another option.
yeah. So that the neighbor knows what the recourse is. Yeah.
Those are generally your options when there's something like that. You don't have a property owner that's, for whatever reason, willing to cooperate or maybe the capacity to get it done themselves.
Yep. Of course, we don't expect it to do that, so.
It doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
I've had maybe the 13 years I've been here, maybe 2 that we've had to take action like on that. Usually the
Yeah.
property owners are pretty responsive to our letters on these types of things, and they get to it and get it pumped out, at least abate it, and then start working with the
Right,
contractor.
yeah.
It can take time to get that system replaced after it's failed. So, but the big thing is drawing down the tank so that
Yeah.
there's not water
Going,
getting
yeah,
out to the drain field
yeah.
and then surfacing.
Okay, that was all I had.
So having no other business before us, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Rachel and seconded by Bob. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Don't say no.
The Board of Adjustment is closed.